Well, the Washington Commanders just got some really good news yesterday with the Eagles losing to the New York Giants. The Commanders have a chance to take first place in the NFC East after this week. And we're going to talk about the Commanders' playoff chances going to the rest of the season and talk about the Eagles' schedule as well. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button and that notification bell as well so you never miss a video. Let's get to 16,500 subscribers soon. Hit that like button. Appreciate all the birthday wishes yesterday. Means a ton to me. But yeah, let's get into this. So the Eagles, man, they got pretty much obliterated yesterday by the New York Giants, and their schedule is not easy, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. But they lost 34-17 against the New York Giants yesterday. Absolutely dominated. The defense was bad. The offense was bad. Jalen Hurts looked bad. And just everything about the Eagles yesterday did not look good. Quinyon Mitchell was bad. So, that doesn't mean it's going to continue. But they've kind of gotten lucky their first few weeks anyways this season. The first week of the season, barely beat the Cowboys. Next week, barely beat the Chiefs. Then the next week, they win on a blocked field goal at the end that the Rams should have won that game. They beat the Bucks. That was, that they won. They were winning most of that game, and they lose to the Broncos and now lose to the Eagles. And their schedule isn't easy. They play the Vikings at Minnesota. That's not an easy game. I think that they should win that game. Then you play the Giants again. I think the Giants probably get that win. But then you play the Packers, the Lions at Dallas, you play the Bears, you play the Chargers, you play, the Raiders, kind of easy, but then you play the Commanders, they play the Bills, and they play the Commanders again. So not an easy schedule for them. You could definitely see them, losing 3-4 plus games remaining. I mean, like if we're just really looking at it, they'll probably, out of these next four, they'll probably win two of those games, and then these next three, they'll probably lose one of them, maybe two of them. So that gives you the 3 losses. And then let's say 2 out of these 3 at the end. And that puts you at 5 losses. And they already have 2 losses on the season. So that puts them at 10-7 on the year, which gives the Commanders a real shot to win the division. And, right now the Commanders are 1 game behind the Philadelphia Eagles. They, lost they're 3-2. The Eagles are 4-2. But if they win this week, then the Commanders will be 4-2. And they beat the Giants. So that makes them 1-0 in the division and makes the Eagles 1-1 in the division. And you look at the points, point differential, through all these different teams, and the Eagles are actually -1 in the season. The Commanders are +33. The Cowboys are -3, and the Giants are -23 there. So the Commanders by far have the best point differential out of any team. The only team that's in the positives. Only team in the positives. So, the Eagles have gotten lucky in some of these games. Have gotten unlucky, but, in some games as well. But for the most part, the luck has outweighed the unluckiness. And I think, these last couple of games, their luck finally caught up to them. And, it's going to be hard, these next, 6 to 8 weeks for them. Really the rest of the season. It's, they don't really have an easy stretch anywhere in there. You have some games that are a little bit easier, like the Raiders, maybe the Bears, and you would say the Giants, but who knows? I think the Eagles will take care of business next time they play Jackson Dart, but still, you never know. They're going to be favored in that game, especially at home, but I wouldn't say more than like 7-point favorites in that game, which normally they would. And, the Vikings, that's not an easy game as well. And the Packers at Lambeau Field, they probably lose that game. And then the Lions, that's another game they probably lose. They might lose to the Cowboys at Dallas. So you could even see more than, 4 losses remaining on the – you could see 6 losses. And that puts them at, 9-8 on the season and gives the Commanders a really, really good shot of winning the division. And we all know the curse. I don't know it since when, maybe 2003 or whatever, 2000, since NFC East division winner has repeated. So the Commanders play the Bears, they play the Cowboys. I feel like you win one of those 2 for sure. But let's just say you win the Bears and then you win one of the 2 against the Cowboys and Chiefs. So that puts you at 1 loss. And then the Seahawks and Lions, you win one of those 2. That puts you at another loss. You beat the Dolphins. And then, again, I think one of these 2 you probably lose. So that puts you at 3 losses. And then I think, they'll beat the Giants, hopefully, and maybe win one of these or two of these last three. So that gives you I lost count, but maybe 4 or 5 losses there, which puts them at 10-7. The schedule is still not easy for the Commanders. I would say it's easier though than what the Eagles have had, but they gotta win the Bears game. The Bears game's super important, and if you can win that Cowboys game, you're in a really, really good spot. I mean, Commanders are 3-2. You win the Bears game, you're 4-2. You win the Cowboys game, you're 5-2, and you're in a really, really good spot going into that next 3-game stretch where it's really tough. So in that case, you can afford to lose 2 out of these 3, which obviously is not ideal. But let's say you do. Let's say you're 5-2, you lose to the Chiefs, you're 5-3, you beat the Seahawks, now you're 6-3, and then you lose to the Lions, you're 6-4. You're still in a solid spot, and then you beat the Dolphins, you're 7-4, and you just got to win really 3 out of the last 6 games, which there's winnable games on the schedule. Broncos winnable. It's not an easy game, but it's winnable. Vikings definitely winnable. Giants winnable. And then any division game is winnable as well. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to Sleeper and a word from today's sponsor. And a huge shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you guys go ahead and check them out. I mean, I have been on fire with my picks so far this season. Yesterday, for the Giants and Eagles game, I had 2 picks. Both of them hit. One, pick that was $5 for 25, and the other 10 for 36. I showed you guys that play yesterday. Hopefully you guys tailed, but if not, you still have time. I will be posting my picks for the Commanders game against the Bears probably tomorrow or Sunday. So stay tuned for that. But make sure you guys check them out. Use my code Pedro on Sleeper and get 100% match up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. Link in the description. All right, so back to, Commanders talk. So, like I said, we still have to wait and see how the rest of the season plays out, and the Commanders still have to win some games. I mean, maybe I didn't say that explicitly, but still, 10 wins is probably the minimum that it's going to take to win the division, but I would say more likely 11 wins to win the NFC East is my guess. And, the Eagles, they're kind of heading in the wrong direction with back-to-back losses. They're the defending champs. They can definitely turn this thing around, but the offense is not looking good and has not clicked yet so far for, them this season. And that is, concerning for them. And, A.J. Brown hasn't fully got, going yet. He had a good game yesterday, but, they've had games where, certain guys have got going, but never like a game where everyone's got going. And, it seemed like Saquon was just absolutely obliterating the Giants yesterday, and they didn't give him the ball. I don't know why. They didn't give him a lot of carries. So he was averaging 7 yards a carry in the first half. You got to feed that man if, you want to win. And, their defense yesterday didn't, ball out as well. And Quinyon Mitchell, their star cornerback, he suffered a hamstring injury. He was out for the rest of the game. I'm assuming he's going to be out for some time. And the Commanders, they've been dealing with injuries, but they're getting healthier. Sam Cosmi, I don't know if he's coming back this week, but if not, he'll definitely be back for this Cowboys game. Terry McLaurin, I'm hoping he's back for this Cowboys game as well, because it's already been 1, 2, 3 games missed. So you want to see him back for the Cowboys game. It would be huge if we can see him practice in any capacity today and tomorrow as maybe a limited participant. But getting some guys, back from the injury report. Jonathan Jones was, doing some side work, I believe, yesterday. I don't know about today, so not going to be back this week. I forgot when he got hurt. Was it the Packers game? So that'd be 1, 2, 3. And then 4, so he'd be able to come back next week. And then also Noah Brown's coming back. So, they're getting guys back, which is good. And, they just got to, ball out and win some of these games. And, you're in a good spot. You have 3 wins. You probably got to win at least 7 of the next game. So, Bears, you got to get that win. That's 1. And we're going to go through this again and just a little bit more into just hypothetical here. So that's 1 win. Let's say you beat the Cowboys, that's 2. Say you lose the Chiefs, then you beat the Seahawks at home, that's 3. And then Lions is going to be tough. Let's say they drop that game, they beat the Dolphins. All right, so that gives you 4 wins right there. Let's say you win one of the next 2, because I think that's probably what happens. That gives you 5 wins, and then I think you beat the Giants. I know that might be a tough game, but I think they'll win that game. That gives you 6 wins on the season. And then, the last 3 is hard. That's really hard. If you can win, 2 out of those 3, then that puts you at 8 wins. And you add that to our win total now and gives you 11. So that might be the key there. If you want to make the playoffs versus winning the division. If you want to win the division, you're probably going to have to win 2 out of those last 3 and get to 11 wins. If you want to just, squeak by and get in as the 7th seed, then you maybe only have to win 1 of those 3, and it gives you, a 7 wins from, the last, besides the first 5 games of the season, 7 wins, and you add the 3, and that gives you 10. So we kind of went in there a little bit messy there. But sorry about that. But you guys can see what the Commanders have to do to win the division and possibly just make the playoffs in general. The Eagles have a tough schedule too, arguably harder than what the Commanders have, because they do have to go and play the Bills. I don't know if that's at home or not, but they will have to play the Bills, and that is at Buffalo. So that's going to be a really, really tough game for them. But appreciate you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.